Welcome back to the programme. The Greek Prime Minister has promised to find out the causes of a train crash that has killed at least 36 people, the deadliest such incident in the country's history. More than 80 people were also injured, many of whom remain in a serious condition in hospital. A passenger train heading to Thessaloniki collided head-on with a freight service in the town of Tempe, near the central city of Larissa, causing carriages to fly off the tracks and catch fire. The local station master in charge of signalling has been arrested. He's our Europe correspondent, Jessica Parker.
Within seconds, two trains rumbling through the night came to this. A head-on crash between a freight and passenger service carrying around 350 people.
It was chaos. Tumbling over, fires, cables hanging, broken windows, people screaming, people trapped.
You can see the shock, the fear on the faces, some stained with blood, of those who escaped.
We were sitting in the second carriage from the front of the train. But in the front, it was very difficult for anybody to survive because the collision happened head-on. At some point, we heard an announcement about a delay from the driver because there was confusion with the railway tracks. A minute later, boom.
As day breaks, the force of the impact becomes clear. Carriages destroyed, burnt out or thrown off the track. Many on board, it's reported, were young people heading back to Thessaloniki after a Greek Orthodox holiday. What's left now is a mess of metal and shattered glass, seats strewn on the ground. Everywhere, evidence of the force of this collision.
Our thoughts are with the victims' relatives. Our duty is to treat the injured and then to identify the bodies. I can guarantee only one thing. We will find out what caused this tragedy and will do whatever we can to avoid anything similar in the future.
Efforts to find people who may still be alive stretched on for hours. The cause of all this isn't yet clear, but an investigation's been launched as authorities say the two services were running on the same track, leading to what's being described as Greece's worst train crash in living memory. Jessica Parker, BBC News.
And we've got an update, some news that's just coming in. The Greek Transport Minister Kostas Karamanlis has resigned over the train crash. He had visited the site in Larissa earlier on Wednesday. Mr. Karamanlis said in a statement, when something so tragic happens, it's impossible to continue and pretend like it didn't happen. This is called political responsibility. For that reason, I announce my resignation as Infrastructure and Transport Minister. And you can see him there in that shot a little earlier, where he said that the investigation would continue. A station master has been arrested, and we know so far that at least 36 people are dead, 80 injured, 350 people on that passenger train. Now, we spoke to Yannis Antonioglou, who was on the train at the time the two trains collided in northern Greece and managed to escape. Have a listen.
The crash itself, from my perspective, was not as dramatic as other people's accounts. We were in the fifth wagon. After the crash, the train started trembling completely, maybe suitcases falling off, the windows breaking, and we ended up being tilted 45 degrees as if about to tip. But other than that, we were able to exit the train with relative safety. The thing about this crash was that there were no good visuals. When we went out, we had no idea what was going on 100 meters further, because there were trees, there were the different levels where the rails are up here and the slope was 5 meters below. So when we got out, we couldn't see anything but flames and smoke, so we could only get a faint idea of what was going on.
There was Yannis Antonioglou, a passenger on that train who survived. Well, earlier I spoke to Alexia Kalatsi, who's a journalist with the Greek public broadcaster ERT. I began by asking her what the survivors had told her about the crash.
People would tell us that this 10 seconds of the accident would feel for them like a century, that it was a nightmare, actually. And many of them told us that they couldn't believe they survived this accident. They heard a sound, and then everything changed. Then there were people that used their luggages in order to smash the windows in some train cars, that the doors didn't open automatically. And this is the way they actually escaped and evacuated the train. They told us there was a chaos with people screaming, women with little children. And as far as I know, most of the people were students. They went for holidays because Monday was a national holiday here in Greece. So they took like 3-4 days off in order to go to their hometown or to go for a short trip.
Yeah, devastating. We are hearing that a lot of the people on that train, some 350 passengers, many of them were young people, were university students.
Exactly, this is the case. This is why we also had many parents in the train station in Thessaloniki, where all the survivors have been transferred by buses. In the beginning, the parents were really upset, anxious. Some of them could not speak to their children because, of course, after the accident, there were no cell phones, there was no signal. So people were waiting there in order to see if their children was among the survivors who arrived in the station. For a few of them, this was not the case, and they had to go to Larissa, where the train accident, took place, in order to search for them. And I know for sure that there are still people looking for the loved ones.
Yeah, absolutely devastating. We were just looking at those live pictures. I wonder if our director can bring those up again, of those two cranes that are at the crash site. And you were saying that there are, along the train station and along that road, there is hundreds of parents and family members waiting to see if there's any news of people who may have survived this, who are still trapped.
They are fewer and fewer because we know the number of the dead people has been increased, and some of them actually succeeded and found the loved ones in the hospitals in Larissa, where they have been transferred yesterday night.
That's Alexia Kaletsi, a journalist with the Greek public broadcaster ERT.